thank you again to all of our dignitaries and special guests. We really appreciate your support. So we couldn't do this without our board members, right? So please hold your applause. I'd like our board members to stand when they hear their name. We'd like to thank them for all of their efforts that they help us with every single day. Carol Allen, Bob Desmond, Rita DiStefano, Karen Frank, Sue Gubing, Rich Human, Chris Kent, Dave Manning, Scott Maskin, Kevin O'Connor, Robert Corte, Anne-Marie Scheidt, Chris Valsamos, Mike Voltz, and Jimmy Coughlin. Thank you again to all the board members. A big, big round of applause. Thank you. So as you know, we not only cannot do this without our board members, but our sponsors as well. So again, please stand when you hear your name. Please hold your applause until the names have been called. We have a lot of sponsors that help us out with every event, and this event is, we have quite a bit. So the first and foremost, GVP Digital Media. They are doing our audio and video today, so a big shout out to them. Without them, we wouldn't have our microphones to have our panel. So we have Jim Lennon Photography, who you will see walking around, taking pictures, so smile pretty. We have AVZ and Company, B&B Bank, H2M Architects, Herald Community Newspapers, JLL, Long Island Press, People's Alliance, PSE&G, Rickner Printing and Mailing Services, Stony Brook University, and of course the Windwatch Golf and Country Club. Thank you to all of our sponsors. It's because of your support that we can deliver such a program. Also, please take time and visit their tables in the exhibit area right by the food, so you could do two things at one time. You could eat food and you could visit them. So the month of May, we hope it's going to stop snowing. We have our trade show ready to roll. It's our 31st annual trade show. May 30th, it's a Thursday, over at the Suffolk Community College. It's the Thursday after Memorial Day. We are excited to share with you that we've lined up a fantastic speaker, Carl Banks, the former American football linebacker of the National Football League, and I think he played for the New York Giants, right? Am I right? Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be a great show, so, or exhibitor breakfast. So if you are interested in sponsoring or getting a ticket, please see Anthony Forgione. He's here somewhere. I know he is. And he will come around and have, conversations with you about that. Okay. Last but not least, I'd like to welcome up Terry Alessi Maselli to introduce today's program. Help me welcome Terry, President and CEO of the HIA-LI.
So good morning again and welcome. This is our 25th annual Economic Summit. So for the last many years, we've partnered with our valued member AVZ and Company to really interpret their economic survey and opinion poll. A thank you to Annette Esposito, who spends an exorbitant amount of time putting this opinion poll and survey together. So thank you, Annette. And to Bob Corte, who's our moderator and a very valued HIA-LI board member as well. So many of you know that we at the HIA-LI have been doing a lot of work in the Hauppauge Industrial Park. I'm proud to say that we, about 2 weeks ago, had a stakeholders meeting with the Suffolk County Industrial Development Agency, the Regional Planning Association, and Jim Lima Planning to really look at what this industrial park will look like, as well as some of the things for the future. So the reason I tell you that, without letting the cat out of the bag, we'll be working with Regina Zara and their group at Suffolk County and the Suffolk County Steve Ballone to really look at what the results say. But equally as important, the HIA-LI will use it as an advocate for the industrial park in terms of really seeking out funds and resources and improved infrastructure. So we're very excited about that. So I would say from the HIA-LI standpoint, our economic confidence rating on Long Island is extremely high, don't you think? Yeah. And we're set for growth. So again, very excited about that. That's coming down the pike. So Bob will get into the specifics, obviously, of this survey, but I can tell you that we know that, again, the Long Island confidence rating and the national confidence rating, they're both very high. You know, when we look at that, we look at several things. So many of you come to us and absolutely confirm that we're living in a world that is constantly changing, probably faster than it ever has before, right? Competition is a lot more intense. It places much greater demands on us as business leaders and business owners. So if we are not constantly doing something different and innovating and streamlining, we will lose out in this market to someone else who is. And really, that's what this morning is all about, our ability to be able to get a pulse of what's going on and a forecast for the future. We are proud to have these panel members, as you saw, some of them HIA-LI board members as well, to interpret the survey, and we're equally as proud to have Bob Corte. So he started with AVZ and Company in 1980. He has been HIA-LI's past chairperson, past treasurer, a very good friend, and a very valued member of our economic committee. So help him, give him a round of applause is what I think we really should do, yeah? No? Give him a reputation to live up to, Mr. Bob Corte. Is it hot in here? Yes.
Not at all. Try to put that mic back in there. Can everybody hear me okay? Good? Okay. Thanks, Terry. Good morning, and thank you all for coming. I must say that this is one event that I really enjoy. The economic survey results, I think, are really important, but it's just a great opportunity to network with some wonderful business people in this audience, so I always enjoy this event. So, as Terry said, my name is Bob Corte. I am the managing partner of AVZ. I'm a proud member of HIA-LI's Board of Directors and Executive Committee and past chairperson. I'm happy to be here this morning to discuss AVZ's 25th Annual Long Island Economic Survey and Opinion Poll, and to moderate our Economic Summit discussion with our panelists. When we began this endeavor, I don't think we ever anticipated the positive response we've received to this information over the years. To be here discussing results with you 25 years later is truly gratifying. I want to thank each of you for your participation, whether you answered our survey, made use of the data, or are simply here to network and be a part of our event. Thank you for your support. We're truly humbled by your friendship. In just a few minutes, I will be introducing our prestigious panel who will share their thoughts and insights with us. But before we begin that discussion, I first would like to thank Terry for allowing me to moderate this summit again. I'd also like to acknowledge HIA-LI's President Joe Campolo. Although Joe couldn't be here with us today, he is always busy helping us promote HIA-LI's mission, continuing to promote, and I use the word revitalize. I mean, the work we've done with this Hauppauge Industrial Park, with the Suffolk IDA, with the RPA, I mean, it's eye-opening, and just some of the statistics that people have heard. 1,300 businesses in the industrial park, 55,000 employees. I mean, it's a wonderful park. And when you looked at the map, we looked at this map a couple of weeks ago with the RPA and the IDA. The industrial park is like the center of Long Island. So I look at the spokes that go out, whether it be to Cold Spring Harbor Labs, whether to BNL, whether to the universities, and it's just such an important aspect of business in this region. So Joe continues to work tirelessly and advocate for the region as well. As I'm certain you are always aware, the HIA is always here to support everyone in this room, as well as be an active voice for business owners throughout Long Island. If you haven't had the opportunity to become involved with us, or perhaps simply want to network, or if you have any questions about doing business on Long Island, or just need a sounding board, please know that HIA-LI is here for you. Terry and her staff are always at your disposal to help in any way they can. So thanks to all of you at HIA-LI for all that you do. The staff, wonderful staff, all the volunteers, and everyone who supports this great organization. Thank you so much. As you can imagine, a tremendous amount of work and effort and support goes into creating our survey and tabulating the results. All of us at AVZ are continually humbled by the response our survey receives each year. But before we get to that discussion with our panelists, I'd like to take a few minutes to go over some of the results. As mentioned, this is our 25th anniversary of our survey. And I'll just digress. I remember 25 years ago, we belonged to an organization, and we had a firm come in from Chicago that had been doing a survey, and they came in and they talked to us about the virtues of doing this, and we said, and some of my senior partners said, what is this going to bring? Is it going to bring new business? And you know what? We said, let's just embark on this, and it really got legs early on, and it continues to get legs. So for us, it's really been a fabulous marketing and branding tool, and really a tool for business owners on Long Island. I hear Joe Connolly on CBS Radio refer to it. So to me, I think it's been fabulous for us, but also for the region as well. Each year, the survey provides a number of new questions, as well as 25 years of comparative statistics to help us assess the performance of the Long Island economy on a year-over-year basis. Our electronic survey questionnaire was sent out in mid-October. The results came back by mid-November, and from there we tabulate the results. And it's kind of interesting. I look back because you always think it's kind of skewed. A year ago, we had the survey, and then we had the Tax Cuts and Job Reform Act. And you wonder what impact that might have had on the survey results during that prior 60-day period. And now I look at this, and we had a little bit of stock market volatility during that time. We peaked probably sometime in late September in the market. And then from October 15th, November 15th, it went down about 5% or so. And then it dropped down even more in December. But now it's rebounded, certainly in 2019. So I don't know whether people would feel the impact of that. I think we asked everyone when they came in today to rate their economic confidence level. So we'll give out that confidence level towards the end of the presentation. So I'm just curious to see what people think in this room. So on the way out, you will get a copy of the survey. If you need an electronic copy or would like an electronic copy, just leave your business card on the front desk, and we'll be happy to send it to you. Or you can find it on our website at avz.com. So confidence rating in the local economy has increased to an all-time high of 7.2 versus 6.7 last year. This is the same rating we experienced really going back to 1999 and 2000. Unemployment is down significantly in both Nassau and Suffolk counties. And the stock market, just talked a little bit about that. That's an entirely different story. But all the indices ended down in 2018. This is the 14th year we asked respondents to rate their confidence in the national economy. And our respondents are feeling very optimistic nationally, with our rating reaching an all-time high of 7.5. Median home prices have historically been a great indicator of a growing economy. In 2018, median prices of sold residential real estate in Nassau County increased by 7.8% to $525,000, and in Suffolk County by 7% to $380,000. Don't know if we're going to start to see a softening of that market. I'm hearing some indicators. Maybe our banker on the panel, Kevin, will give us a little insight as to, I'm just curious, I may ask you a question about mortgages. You see an increase or a decrease in people applying for mortgages. So what are the headcount plans for 2019? I'm sorry, let me go back. Over 3/4 of our respondents, or close to 77%, experienced some growth in 2017. As for 2019, our respondents appear to be quite optimistic, with over 2/3, or 67%, forecasting some increase in revenue. So again, people seem to be optimistic. In reference to employee headcount, we asked, have you seen a substantial change in your employee turnover in 2018? Almost twice as many respondents have seen a substantial change in workforce, 32% this year versus 17% in 2017. I think when you have a strong economy, I think that's what happens. People have opportunities. I've seen it even in my firm. We had a fair amount of turnover in 2018, and I think a strong economy enables people to look for other jobs, increase pay, and have other opportunities. So what are the headcount plans for 2019? With a strong job market comes more employment opportunities. 46% of respondents are planning to increase headcount in 2019. Given the many comments we received, like the one on our screen, which it appears that many companies are still finding it hard to replace valued employees with the same level of experience and expertise. Anne Marie, you should be ready for a question on that as a college educator. We asked, which industry do you feel has the greatest potential for growth on Long Island? After slipping to second place last year, healthcare has once again taken the #1 spot, with 40% of our respondents feeling that this is the industry where we will see the greatest growth. We asked, do you feel financially prepared for retirement? And we always receive a wide range of comments with the answer to this question. It's no surprise that many respondents were feeling prepared prior to the stock market volatility. Some say they are planning as best they can, but they don't feel prepared, while others don't know if their money will last as long as they need it to. Overall, however, 52% of respondents feel that they are financially prepared to retire, which is, I think that's a pretty good number. I think that percentage has increased over the last few years. So now I'd like to talk about a few of our new current event questions. We asked, should the government raise the normal retirement age for Social Security? Many of our respondents, 57%, do not feel that the government should raise the normal retirement age for Social Security. However, many comments centered around this entitlement program's ability to remain solvent for future generations. Many believe the way in which the contributions are invested or administered must change in order for it to remain a viable program. We asked, should we legalize marijuana? 57% believe we should legalize marijuana. And there was no clear-cut answer, as this question elicited the most comments. Strict oversight, collection of the tax revenue would benefit New York, where and how it should be sold were just some of the areas that generated concern. And finally, we asked the most important question of all, and we know the answer: who won Super Bowl 53? Well, it seems that 21% of our respondents really went out on a limb. I mean, that team has probably been in the Super Bowl 10 times in the last 12 or 13 years. But they got it right, and as you all know, the invincible Tom Brady has done it again. Whether you love him or hate him, we all cannot deny he's truly one of the greatest quarterbacks football has ever seen. All I can hope is that the Jets and the Giants, and I root for both of them, get their act together for next year and in the future. Our results booklet is full of useful information that comes directly from Long Island's business owners, those of you who are the very heartbeat of our business community. Please feel free to contact Annette Esposito, our marketing director at AVZ, if you have any questions or would like additional copies of the results. And as I said, you'll get a copy on the way out. If you'd like an electronic copy, drop your business card off at the front desk or just visit avz.com. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panel. There's a full biography for each panelist on your table. Please take a look. They all have impressive backgrounds, and I think they're going to add some insight to some of the questions regarding the economy and where we see the future going with the Long Island economy. So let's get to our prestigious panel. On my left, Rich Heumann, President, CEO, H2M Architects and Engineers. And as everybody knows a little bit early, he's an HIA-LI board member. Next, we have Anne Marie Scheit, Director of Economic Development, Stony Brook University, also an HIA-LI board member. Michael Fenner, Executive Vice President, Northwell Health. Kevin O'Connor, President and CEO of B&B Bank, HIA-LI board member. And Chris, we're happy to have you here this morning, Valsamos, President and CEO, Castella Imports, and one of our newest HIA-LI board members. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here. So let's get our discussion going. I mean, the first question is pretty easy. According to the survey nationally, the confidence rating nationally is at an all-time high of 7.5, and locally, we were up to 7.2. So I'd ask each of you, in your own brief words, do you feel as optimistic about our economy going forward? And again, that was November 15th. This is 3 months later. Some things have changed, some things have improved, some things have gone down. There's always news out of Washington that could really affect how people feel about the economy. So in each of your words, let's go start with you, Rich.
Okay, thanks, Bob. And thanks to the HIA-LI for having me this morning. And I also want to thank Bob and AVZ. The effort that you guys put into collecting all this information and collecting opinion and putting together what's a fantastic survey. It's truly a benefit to our region, and I want to thank you for that. So for me, my confidence in general is still high. My confidence nationally is not as high as it is locally. I think that from a national perspective, the fear is we're going to kind of run into a lot of gridlock. And I think if you go back a couple of years with so much talk about money finding its way to regions in major infrastructure investments, I think that that was kind of a driver in people's confidence. We all know that when we're reinvesting in ourselves, that's when we can really drive an economy. Haven't seen as much of that from the federal level as I think we were all anticipating. And when you think about it today, there's going to be so much difficulty in, I think, collaboration and cooperation on a federal level that there are going to be some challenges in how dollars can find their way to us locally. However, locally, my confidence level is higher than a 7.2. I think there's so much good happening for us locally right now. I think stakeholders are as aligned today as they've been in a long time. You constantly hear about investing in infrastructure. You hear about transforming ourselves into more of an innovation economy and driving high tech. So much commitment to the development of the kind of next generation of workforce that are really going to help us grow. The talent gap, Bob mentioned it. When you can't find people and people have an opportunity to go ahead and unfortunately maybe leave you and go someplace else, that's opportunity. And even though it's difficult as a business owner to be able to manage yourselves when there's a lot of opportunity outside of the walls of your company, that's a strong indicator of a good economy. When I take a look at us at H2M, just wrapping up our planning process for 2019, we're projecting over 18% growth for our company, and we've been growing consistently over the last 5 or 6 years, and I think 2019 is projecting to be as strong of a year for us from a growth perspective as we've seen probably in the last decade. So I'm confident. I think there's a lot of great opportunity for everybody in all industries, and hopefully 2019 turns out to be what we think it's going to be.
Thank you. Anne-Marie? You're on.
I have to agree with Rich. I feel more confident locally than at the national level, which continues to astonish me with our inability to work together, apparently. But what we are seeing is that our graduates are getting jobs, especially in STEM-related occupations. They're getting multiple offers before they graduate. That's got to be a good sign. One of the ways that we in all educational institutions help kids make those kinds of connections is through internship programs. I'm pleased to be working with Sue Gubing on an effort that we're going to be talking more about as the year goes on, of placing more, giving more students the opportunity to experience work, and giving more employers the opportunity to have a first look at upcoming graduates that they may want to employ. One of the fundamental roles of higher education is still to teach kids to read and write and think. I think we need to do a better job of connecting those kids who are not in STEM, I was one of them, find their way to appropriate job opportunities. And I'll shut up at that point.
Thank you. Michael?
Thank you, Bob. I would agree with Rich and Anne Marie, probably a little more optimistic locally than nationally, due to a lot of things that probably have changed since the November survey first came out. But I still think in the long term, there are a lot of positives that will happen, both locally and nationally. I think we have a lot of advantages here on Long Island that we really need to take more credit for and make sure people are aware of. The proximity to New York City, the employment outlook here on Long Island, which is a lot better than it's often demonstrated. And I think for those reasons, I'm definitely about the same, but a little more locally than nationally.
Kevin?
Good morning. And, thank you again for having me. On a federal level, I'm not sure. I haven't seen the tweet of the morning, so I can't tell you how I feel about that. But certainly on the local level, I think, Rich, you hit it best, was that the collaborative efforts that's going on Long Island, the government-private partnerships, all that, the things that I've seen over the last couple of years are much more positive. You're seeing things happen, whether it be on housing, whether it be on development, and I think the survey reflects the view. I mean, we get an opportunity as a bank to talk to lots of people. I spend lots of time with customers and organizations, and your projections for revenue and things are felt by lots of people. I got the thumbs up from my people at the table. Mortgage applications are up, so but it does feel like what goes on in Washington goes on in Washington. It operates in a vacuum. It has nothing to do with what's going on Main Street for the people in this room, which is, I guess, good. So I am certainly much more positive about Long Island than would be nationally.
Chris?
I don't think there's anything left to say, but
What happens when you go last?
All right.
but I'll try. But
Somebody
I
had to
agree-
go last. Sorry.
I agree with the rest of the panelists. Our view of the local economy is at a much higher confidence level than nationally. For us, nationally, the turmoil in Washington, whether you're talking about tariffs, where interest rates are going to continue to rise or stay steady, that would definitely have an impact on us and our business nationally. Locally, I agree with the rest of the panelists. Talent acquisition is harder than ever, I think, on Long Island. Retention is also extremely difficult. That's one of the things that we're trying to do is focus on training and talent retention. The opportunities where the Hop Hog Industrial Association Industrial Park is going, the efforts of the local IDAs and the Suffolk IDA, even the Empire State Development Corp helping companies stay on Long Island and to continue to thrive. I think locally we have a high confidence level going into this year.
Thank you, Chris. Rich, I'll direct this one to you. And it's good to see, I know Ed Wareheim was here, Tom Lohman, with our Hop Hog Industrial Park initiatives, how they've sat in on almost every meeting with the Regional Planning Association, the IDA. Even the town of Islip has had representation there. And I think it's so important that county, local governments, the town governments get involved. But I'll ask you, in your business, what are the biggest challenges you face when it comes to working on projects on Long Island?
Yeah. Oop, okay. I think that for us, as Long Island goes through change, just the impetus of creating change on Long Island has been a major shift for us. And you've gone through decades where bedroom communities, single family house, and keep me really far away from the train station, and I don't want to live there, and kind of just a different feel, as a region. And as part of that, you had a significant resistance, no matter where you went to do projects, to not here. Like, do the project sounds good, but do it someplace else. Don't do it near me.
The old NIMBYism.
Of course.
Not in my backyard.
Yeah. So I think for us, what we've seen is again, from all the stakeholders' perspective, whether it's an owner looking to create a project, nobody can go ahead and just really drive a project without getting full engagement from the community, full engagement from government. And for us, where we play an integral role in working with our clients to help them develop a strategy, to go ahead and have outreach and get buy-in from stakeholders and be transparent. I think at the end of the day, we're a sophisticated region, and people are intelligent and they have access to all sorts of information. And if you lay out for them the benefits of a project, whether or not they like where it's going to be built or how it might impact them from one perspective, I think that's your best opportunity to go ahead and get the kind of buy-in you need, because we know that a really good project can be killed if a small group of people get together and want to kill it. So we've recognized that and have made a clear commitment to trying to be as engaging as we possibly can with our clients to get projects done. So that's kind of my thought.
I think getting the community involved is very important, and I'll just digress. I live in Sayville, and about 5-6 years ago, the Bristol wanted to put a project in there. And they were taking over some of the properties, some businesses that were really run down. And at that time, if you listen to the community, 9 out of 10 of them were totally against it. Well, the Bristol developed their project. It certainly didn't increase traffic. Certainly those people are not driving anywhere. And it's a beautiful, if you drive by, it absolutely looks beautiful. And if you polled those same 10 people, 9 out of 10 would say it was a great idea. But initially, we don't want that here. And we're seeing that, and I don't know where it's going to go. Island Hills in Sayville closed, and somebody wants to develop that property. I don't know where it's going to go, but, and I even look at what's going on with Amazon. One side of the fence says it's a great idea for the region. Then there are individuals that are saying we gave away too much. So, at the end of the day, sometimes you need to move along. Progress has to happen. Yeah, sure. So, Kevin, I'll direct this at you. We saw the interest rates rise over the last 2 years. I think the Feds sound like they may want to cool that a little bit, but I still think we'll probably see a couple of, if the economy remains strong, we'll probably see it tick up a little bit more. What do you think will that have? Has that had really a negative impact in the last couple of years, and what do you see going forward if the rates continue to increase?
It's funny. I think that we saw, obviously, business owners be more careful about how they manage their cash now. And cash has a cost to it. So we've seen probably people using a little bit more excess liquidity than borrowing from us. But generally speaking, rates are still at relatively low levels. They are not, in some cases, the big driver of deciding to go forward with a project or not. So at the end of the day, the way these projects take and how long it takes to get them going, a little bit of change in interest rates. And candidly, as the Fed has moved up, some of the long end of the curve has come down, and we don't actually have a yield curve, we have a yield line. And so I don't know that it's had an impact of really slowing the economy down. I think the residential rates have come up a little bit, but not enough to, I think, discourage people from taking out a mortgage. I think the fear of the price of your house going up or the price of the potential house going up year to year is more about what's spurring people on to sort of take on mortgage debt. But it does feel, again, that that's not been a real driver or a slower of the economy.
That's good to hear. So, and a prediction on how many upticks we might see this year?
I mean,
oh, that was not
what
the
would
softball?
I like, or what would I know? I guess we're sort of set up as a company for the rates to go up a little bit, and right now that doesn't appear like it's going to happen. And again, as I said, yield line, we make our money by borrowing short and lending a little bit long, and there's not a lot of opportunity there at this point. But it does feel like the Fed is sort of taking a wait and see attitude. I think all the turmoil that's gone on from the time of your survey to today has certainly scared a bunch of people, but we seem to be ticking those things off that, okay, we've maybe got the government shutdown, that end is in sight. There is some progress on the trade items. So it appears the Fed has said they're going to be on hold, and I think it's going to be a wait and see as to what goes on with the economy in the second half of the year.
Thank you. Chris, you have a rich history in your business, how it's grown over the years. How do you build a successful customer base? And have you used any specific marketing tactics that have proven successful for your company?
The first question, building a successful customer base. I think the first and foremost, building a customer base is one that's built on trust. And that's across the spectrum of business, whether that's you're dealing with your bank or the end consumer. You have to have a foundation. That's the basis for any customer-vendor relationship. Especially today, I think with the boundaries of business all but eliminated, consumers, customers have a myriad of choices of who to do business with. Again, whether that's banks or where they buy their food from. So having a solid vendor-customer relationship is more important than ever. Second, your organization should have a product or service that provides customers with exceptional value. You have to have an edge today. And definitely today with competition being as fierce as ever, as Terry said before, you have to be innovative. Your product or service has to go above and beyond what the competition is offering, and whether it's price, innovation, quality, or consistency, etc. In terms of marketing tactics, we've focused heavily on digital marketing and traditional food shows. When I talk about digital marketing, I talk about educating and connecting with consumers through our website. We rely heavily on social media, email campaigns. All these avenues allow us to hyper-target specific audiences at a time and place of our choosing, which is something that is very hard to do with traditional marketing. Electronic catalogs is another focus that we do. Again, it's a fraction of the cost of traditional catalogs, and it's something that we can always change up to the minute, and they're always up to date. Again, if you do a traditional marketing collateral, it could last you for months and months before it's time to replenish. We've also focused on LinkedIn and other career websites, which have allowed us to market our company to potential new team members. All digital marketing has allowed us to decrease costs and allow us to focus more of our budget on talent acquisition for traditional marketing responsibilities such as art-directed photography, labels, content creation, etc.
Do you use much paper in the way of marketing material, or have you pretty much gone digital across the board?
We've gone digital as much as we can, but going back to traditional food shows, in our business, you still have to touch, feel, and see. So traditional marketing collateral catalogs such that they still exist.
And LinkedIn has worked pretty well for you on the social media side?
Yes.
I assume Facebook as well. Do you use Facebook that much?
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Okay. But good. I think that's the way to go in the future. I really do. Anne Marie, given the incubators you're involved with at Stony Brook University, which innovations do you believe will stand the test of time and be great successes in the future?
I'm glad you asked that, Bob.
You asked me to ask that one.
What a team. Okay, so several of the technologies that our growing companies are working on, no surprise, we and Feinstein and Cold Spring Harbor and Brookhaven to a certain extent, we are all involved in biotechnology. There are cancer drugs that are coming down the line. And more important, what I see our incubator companies working on are drug platforms and medical device platforms. That's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. A company that graduated into Broad Hollow from us has a platform that enables it to design fake viruses. That is a virus that looks, feels, smells, tastes like the one that causes any number of diseases, but the operative components of it are left out. And therefore, they can use that platform to design all manner of vaccines. For example, for lung disease, lung diseases is one of their first targets. And that means that a vaccine that's based on that quote-unquote fake virus has absolutely no potential for infecting you with the real disease because it's not the real virus. And they have taken in significant private investment at this point. The technology is based on something developed by a biochemist at Stony Brook, and the prospect for that is just terrific. Another platform which I don't understand, so I'm not going to try to describe it, but the company was founded by alumni from OSI Pharmaceuticals. Remember when OSI was taken over in a hostile takeover, and then a couple of years later, the takeover decided to shut down its American activities. These folks survived that and have, as of January, have taken in $105 million in private investment to develop their anti-cancer drug platform. Another one of our companies has, after what's now probably 15 years of effort by the principal, has figured out a way to keep biomaterials active in a patch. So in the same way that you use a nicotine patch to quit smoking, this patch can deliver vaccines without shots. And that is a terrific potential, especially not only for here, for people who don't like to get shots, but also for communities outside the United States and underdeveloped countries where there just aren't enough skilled medical professionals to even deliver injections. What else? Computer visualization. You may have, if you've looked at our website, you may have seen the fly-through colon that makes colonoscopy much less unpleasant because it takes data from, say, a CT scan and creates a 3D computer visualization of what your colon looks like inside, and you don't have to go through the other unpleasant stuff that you otherwise would. And the likelihood that will increase compliance with recommendations for when you should have a colonoscopy is the slope is like that. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, the chief scientist at our Center of Excellence in Wireless and IT just came back from a year sabbatical at Harvard, and he now is filled with ideas about how to apply AI and machine learning to business activities. Finally, we have 3 companies in our incubators who are focusing on cybersecurity, anti-counterfeiting. One uses biological materials, another uses IT-based materials, and the third one, which is most interesting and far out, is based on quantum mechanics, which is a variety of physics that I know nothing about since I didn't even take high school physics. But it actually enables qubits to be in 2 states at once, A and B at the same time. And the advantage of that, there's a huge investment going on from all of the big dogs. Amazon, IBM, Google are all investing in the future of quantum computing because that will be unbreakable. And these young guys are working on developing their technology to create unbreakable communications. And with that,
Thank
I will shut up again.
Michael, one of the questions we asked in the survey had to do with whether health insurers should deny coverage to people with pre-existing conditions. What is your opinion on that?
I think it should not be allowed. This should not deny coverage to people. This, I think, is a bigger social issue around determinants of care. that when someone has a pre-existing condition, it's often caused by either something catastrophic, such as cancer, or something that has a chronic determinant because they've led a life of smoking or they've led a life of obesity. And those type of things, it's no different than car insurance, where there's a high-risk pool, the government steps in. And it's a bigger discussion about government's involvement, but I certainly think it's more of a personal opinion that I think that pre-existing conditions should not be a deterrent to someone being able to get health insurance.
Okay, thank you. Just on Long Island, I know being a CPA firm over the past 5, 6 years, I've seen a lot of firms get a lot of clients, longtime clients, get acquired. And I have a little bit of a concern, even though I'm an optimist, I'm a realist. I'm a little bit of a concern. Are we going to be able to bring in new, vibrant businesses that are going to fill the vacuum for those companies that have been acquired? So I think there are opportunities. So I'll start with you, Chris, and I'll just say, what are some effective strategies that we could use, that employers could use, or we could use to attract employers to Long Island?
Well, I definitely think that we should advertise Long Island as a great community to raise our children. Definitely don't mention taxes when we're doing that. But it's, again, Long Island is a close proximity to the city. It is a great place to raise your family. There are opportunities and incentives for businesses to come to Long Island. I think maybe we could do a better job of of companies know where to find them. Again, you have your IDAs. There's electrical incentives that you can get from the Power Authority. There's Empire State. There's a slew of incentives that companies can get. I think we should do a better job of advertising them and knowing where to find them. It is harder to, I think, attract, and I think it's one of your other questions, the younger people. Because if you're talking about families, life on Long Island is still possible with more and more, obviously, the younger couple working. The schools are fantastic, but for an individual to live on Long Island 2-3 years out of college, I think it's extremely difficult.
Understood. Kevin?
Part of it, I think we should be advertising. We should be making them read Long Island Business News, not Newsday, where there's so much positive in it. I know that, and all the HIAs, I'll call it propaganda, but all the wonderful things that are going on here. I think, I know that every week I read that newspaper and it makes you want to get out of bed and do business, and all the collaborative things. I think we need to stop playing defense and start playing offense about what this region, you talk about the schools, highly educated workforce, a highly motivated workforce. It's hard to live here, but if you live here, you've succeeded. I think some of the changes that are going on, that we are doing things about some housing. I mean, I look at every 55 and over community, when somebody moves in there, that frees up a house for our young people to move in. We see the things going on in the multifamily sector. We see the rentals. We see the downtowns, the work, play, live spaces. I think that we are too much apologizing for some of the expenses and the parts here, but the proximity to New York, that should be viewed positively. All the educational institutions that are here, the things that are going on in Stony Brook, Brookhaven National Lab, Cold Spring Harbor. This is a great place, and I guess as a public company that travels around trying to sell my stock to people all around the country, I spend a good bit of time advertising what a great place this is, how it is, in the top 20 states in the country if you take population, if you take income levels. So, and I know many of our businesses obviously distribute and sell off Long Island, but there still is it's an incredible economy. There's lots to offer, and I guess, as a bank here, I can't pick up and move my business, as I always say, so I'm going to be very positive about being here. But this is a place that we should be proud of and sell and really highlight the positive things and the things that happen here every day.
I couldn't agree more. Do you have a part-time job with Christian
Tourism
Jonigan?
Bureau, yes, that's where I go next.
You need a part-time job with her at Discover Long Island. And I agree with you. I think Long Island has so much to offer here. I have 2 young kids. They're both going to stay on Long Island, and they love it here. They really do. I will tell you one thing. I saw Jim Coughlin in here, and we were down by Broadway, where you're building on the southeast corner of Sunrise and Broadway in Sayville, and my son was in the car with me, and he said, "Oh, that looks like a great community." He said, "It's probably going to be an over 55 community, too." But here's a 29-year-old. He looked at that and said, "Wow, that would have been great if, a young person like me could get in a community. So even though people older are going to move out of their homes, creates opportunity for young people to buy homes, they probably still want opportunities where they can be more turnkey as well.
But keeping people 55 and over here is good. It's part
I
of the
think it's
fabric of the
important.
community.
Oh, I
right?
really
mean,
do.
I mean, I think that represents the whole family life.
I'm just saying if, we could build more of a mix.
Yes.
Where young people don't necessarily want to be homeowners, they want to be more turnkey as well. So, Rich, I'll turn to you on the same question. What do we do? What are strategies that we can do to attract employers to Long Island?
So for me, I think the good news is that we're doing a lot of things already. And, if you just sat here and listened to, Anne Marie go down her whole incubation summary of, hugely innovative and high-tech initiatives, that's awesome. If that doesn't kind of get you excited about what Long Island is turning into, and I think that when you take a look at, government's place, government is really doing a great job of embracing, business and embracing the change in our economy and the things we need to do as a region to become more competitive. Any business that's considering coming to Long Island, there are various things that you can evaluate, and it's not, all about, cost of living and all about taxes, and those things are important, but access to high-end talent, the connections of the universities, all the research that's happening here. We have world-class institutions on Long Island. I was having a conversation actually at a little kind of advisory board meeting at Cold Spring Harbor Lab. And there are Long Islanders that don't even really understand what's happening at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, and it's a world-class research facility. So when you talk about advertising what we do and all the great steps we've been taking as a region, to me, I think that if we could become much more effective in really selling ourselves, to Kevin's point, not apologizing for ourselves, really selling all the benefits here. The fact that electricity is a little expensive, that stuff kind of falls as less important. The lead that you mentioned, Discover Long Island, and having a conversation with her about, so she's from Arizona, so she has a different perspective of Long Island, and talking about the things we should be doing as a region to attract people from around the country and around the world to come here is another critical piece of it. So people that are putting themselves in positions to be able to lead those initiatives, I think, are also going to be critical for us, because all the pieces are here. We just need to make sure that we're advertising ourselves the right way.
I agree. There's so many positives here. And again, I think it's incumbent upon the towns, the villages, even the Suffolk IDA. I'm all for incentives to bring and keep business here, because I think long-term there's just such a tremendous benefit. And again, I alluded to Amazon. They gave away a lot of tax breaks, but I think in the long run, even in the short run and the long run, that's going to be just such a boon to the economy in this whole region. And some of it will filter to Nassau County, some of it will filter to Suffolk County. I just think it's a home run. That's my own opinion. There are probably people against giving away tax breaks through the IDA.
I know it's government math, but a 10-to-1 return seems a pretty good return.
Again, I'm a finance person. I take the emotions out of it, and I just look at the economics, and I say, to me, it's a no-brainer. So go for it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I want to It's too late now. I want to reinforce what Rich said about talent. We take a lot of stuff on Long Island about taxes. So, hello, do we think Silicon Valley and San Diego and Massachusetts are low-tax areas? But don't they have vibrant technology-based economies? Why do they have them? It's the talent, stupid. So that the very things that Rich was talking about. When people come here, they want an excellent education system, K through 12, for their kids. We have that. We have, as Rich said, we have a wonderful network of higher education institutions. I think maybe what we want to think about is targeting the sectors in which we want to recruit. Anything having to do with biotech, drugs, medical instrumentation, anything having to do with cybersecurity and IT, anything having to do with electronics, and those are three of the sectors that are most dynamic in the national economy. And let's not forget retention and growing our own. It's a lot easier to convince a company that's already here to stay than it is to get somebody to uproot and come from somewhere else. As somebody who works with incubator tenants, I believe strongly in growing our own. It's a longer-term strategy, but one of the things that we try to do is get those companies so embedded in the regional economy, loan relationships with banks like Kevin's, and growth relationships with companies like Rich's, and accounting relationships with companies like Bob's, so that by the time they graduate from the incubator, it wouldn't even cross their minds to go to New Jersey or North Carolina, because they have the relationships regionally that they need to grow. And finally, my colleague Warren Strugach, who's sitting here, who's followed the Long Island economy for many years, pointed out to me that we shouldn't forget that second homes can be a way of attracting the owners of the second homes, who happen to be CEOs of companies. If they come out here because they love to be here in the summer, we should be targeting them to point out that it's a terrific place to be all year round. Thanks.
You're welcome. Mike.
So to add what the other panelists talked about, we have a lot to offer now. I think we have to take the long view and where we need to invest going forward. And I think Bob mentioned it. We have to figure out how to get around some of the NIMBY, because that's where we need to do some things that sometimes are a little painful in the short run, but they set us up for the long-term future. You know, if you look at the middle of the last century, when Long Island was just starting to boom after World War II, there were highways that were being built that displaced some folks at the time. It was painful, but in the long term, it gave us the infrastructure to be where we are today. You know, just as Governor Cuomo had proposed the bridge tunnel from Long Island to either Connecticut or southern Westchester, just as we look at building other places for folks to live, we have to start thinking a little further down the road, and it may be some short-term pain, but it sets us up better for the long term.
Kevin, I think you touched upon it briefly, but I'll ask you, I asked about the mortgages. Have you seen an increase, decrease? And certainly the prices have gone up on homes. See any impact from the Tax Cut and Job Act from a little over a year ago? You see any concerns? Do you hear anything that people are hesitating in buying homes? I don't get that sense just yet, because most people may not know the impact just yet.
I think you've actually sort of answered the question. I mean, I think last year when the tax law got passed, I think everybody was very optimistic. I think the impact of the loss of the SALT deduction probably nobody understood. I think we are now seeing it in lots of people calculating their taxes, and they realize they actually got their refund every 2 weeks, which is scaring a few people. I talked to a car dealer, and he's kind of seeing what that may do. The Disney vacation may be off the table. But I do think that as we go further down this road, there may be some impact on real estate values from the loss of the SALT deduction. I think Connecticut is probably feeling it a little bit more. And it could be because some of the businesses that migrated to Connecticut have an easier chance to leave. The hedge funds and the private equity that migrated there, you know, their businesses have much quicker feet and legs than businesses that are here. So, and I think our sort of geographic boundaries, or being surrounded by water on three sides, is actually good. But obviously, over time, the impact of loss of deductions for state and local taxes will have some impact.
Thank you. Anne-Marie. Certainly, in this economy, the unemployment is so low. Certainly, business owners are having a hard time filling positions. And 13% can't seem to find skilled laborers. How do we balance higher education against an economy that also needs blue-collar workers? I mean, sometimes I look at the blue-collar core of workers as a dying breed, you know, whether it be the electricians, whether it be people in plumbing, HVAC, it's a dying breed. How do we balance that? How can the colleges help out? And I will also ask you if you just touch upon one other thing, and I've seen an improvement, and when I talk to some of the college professors and individuals such as yourself, I've been a little critical of the colleges, that I don't think that for a time they were in tune to what business owners really need, but I've certainly seen a change in that. and I think their curriculum now is designed to support the business owners on Long Island. So I know I gave you a mouthful, so.
I'll try to shut up quickly. On the first issue, the blue collar, I think that the two biggest barriers to help in that regard are parents. I'm a parent myself, and I always expected my daughter to go to college, and she did. I won't say what she's working at now, but not with a degree in religious studies. It's not necessarily the easiest way to find a job. But I think that we have convinced Long Island parents that their kids need to go to college. And part of that is the data that you see every year about the extent to which college graduates' lifetime earnings exceed those of people with lower degrees of educational attainment. What those big numbers don't point out is what you were driving at, Bob, which is that there are specific, very highly paid non-college occupations. And I think that I would love to see a campaign based on the specifics about what kids without a college education can make. A theme like, did you know you can earn, pick a number, $85,000 a year without graduating from college? Profile kids who are recent graduates or older graduates who are doing that, so that there tends to be, from my own community at least, a kind of a stigma of if you're not going to college, then you're kind of a doofus. And I think that we need to make an absolutely concerted effort to overcome that stigma by pointing out you can have a wonderful middle-class life, and we need to show that you can be respected as a member of our regional community, doing those jobs that need to be done. And the other question was working with, responding to the needs of employers. I think that there's one of my colleagues, Garrett Wolf, is here from the College of Business. They have a terrific project course that all of their students have to do, spend a semester working with companies to solve their real world problems. In fact, a couple of those teams worked with Joe Campolo on the economic impact study of the Hauppauge Industrial Park, and they are available. They get academic credit. You don't even have to pay them for the great work that they do because of the value that represents for them and their educational future. College of Engineering has developed a new teaming course where kids pick an area, a technology problem area, and they start working together as a multidisciplinary team when they're sophomores, and they continue working in those areas until they graduate, which makes them much more interesting to prospective employers because they have some deep knowledge of real world problems, and they also have years of experience working as part of a team. I mentioned before the effort that I'm working, helping Sue with on vastly expanding internship placements. We also have a program that we co-invest with companies in technology projects that they need to do. It's a terrific program. It has a 2-page application, and we, the institution, pays the intern. The company pays for other costs, but the institution itself pays the intern. We have had tremendous repeat business because of the popularity of that. And I'm going to close with a plug for the course that I teach. Those who can do and those who can't teach. So I teach a course in how to start a successful business. It is a curriculum that was developed by a successful serial entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. He was successful enough that he has a ranch in Silicon Valley and he doesn't have to work anymore, but he has developed an evidence-based approach to entrepreneurship. So it's not, there is a Steve Jobs every 50 years. The rest of us have to figure out what it is that the customer wants, and that is the basis for the course. The kids watch videos of disguised lectures in their own time, and they spend their time outside of the classroom interviewing prospective customers and coming back and reporting on how those interviews have exploded their hypotheses about who wants to buy the product and what they want to do it for. And I'm always recruiting for advisors and domain experts, so anybody who's interested in working with really exciting kids, please see me afterwards.
Thank you. Kevin?
To add to that, as a board member of Suffolk Community College and a proud graduate, they are working on programs for those kinds of things. And there is actually a joint effort going on between the car dealers and Suffolk Community College to create a course to teach to be an auto tech, which is not just moving a wrench, a lot of it is computer. And so if you get their catalog, there are many opportunities for people to go to college, but to learn the skills that we're looking for between CAD/CAM, and you've probably got some people working for you that basically graduate from that program. So again, an example of a partnership between, you know, a governmental agency and the community or the industry to provide that kind of education, to work together to basically to educate the students that we do need.
Thank you, Kevin. The only other thing I would tack on to that, and I've said this before, working with the colleges, employers could really help. I think it's a two-way street, and I'm talking about internships. If employers would talk to the colleges, there are students there that would love to intern at many of the businesses that are in this room. And it's a two-way street. You're giving back to the student is learning an awful lot. And you know what? Quite often you're going to find a gem when you hire an intern, and you're going to find a future individual that's going to be devoted to that company. So it's a plug I always make. We've had internship programs with the colleges for probably 25 years. It's where we've gotten most of our entry-level staff, and it's just, for us, it's been great, and I think it's been great for the students as well. So I would always encourage business owners, if they have the opportunity to do that, it's a win-win for not only you, but for the student as well.
Bob, can I just add on to that for a minute? Because I completely agree with that. You know, we have an internship program also, and I think last year we had maybe 50 interns. And, you know, when you talk about the need to, you know, go ahead and overcome the talent gap, you know, we've made, I think, maybe 15 offers to interns that had worked for us. So, you know, come May, after they graduate, you know, we have to hire, I think I've got like 72 people budgeted for this year to grow. We've got 15 in the bank that are students, I mean, excellent students who we've had with us for 2 or 3 years. So they know us, we know them. I think it's become a staple of the ability for our company to be able to grow and bring in really good talent. So I would completely agree and encourage as much as I could that people should look to bring interns in.
Yeah, and we keep them year-round, and the way I always termed it is we get to date them and they get to date us before there might be a marriage. So it's been a win-win for us for a long time. Michael, I'll direct this. Did you want to add something, Chris?
Just one quick thing. Definitely working with colleges, I think businesses are bound to profit from it. But I think we should also look at high schools. Just like we said before, college is not for everybody. And the Hauppauge Industrial Park is made up of 55,000 workers, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say the majority are blue-collar workers. The high schools working with guidance counselors could be a great opportunity to hire young talent. And especially if your company, like ours, offers tuition reimbursement and continuing education, they can find their way trying different things in your company, and they could find whether we send them to electrical school or plumbing, or turn them into drivers. I think high school is also a great opportunity to find young talent and potential gems.
Absolutely. Anne Marie, she touched upon that. Not everybody is college material, although probably guidance counselors don't want to admit that, and maybe some parents don't want to admit that. But, you know, it's like they say, there's a college out there for everyone. There could be a career for everyone out there. They just have to find their niche. Michael, I'll ask you, what role should government play in providing Americans with health care, and what role should the marketplace play?
I think we have to look at what the current state is to kind of figure out where we go from there. If you look now between Medicare, which is 100% federal, and Medicaid, which is shared federal and state, the government is already the single biggest payer of health care in the United States. I think it's not, we shouldn't go in the direction of getting them out of it. I don't think we'd be able to unwind it at this point. And frankly, the government being in it has done a lot of good in many ways. I think they've set the standard for quality metrics, where there's a lot more transparency. It's driven by the federal government and Medicare. In order to follow suit, the managed care companies then follow suit, and they have metrics that they follow. Outcomes have improved. You know, if you look at the last half century or so, the life expectancy in the United States gone from less than 50 in the last 100 years, less than 50 to about 80. And I think a lot of what's happened has been good. There's a lot that needs to be fixed, certainly, but I think the government plays an important role and should continue to. I think that they've standardized a lot of things. There are accreditations that happen, and if you left it to the market, I think there would be some things that would go less than optimally. I think there's already plenty of trouble with access to care. We saw what happened with the Affordable Care Act. I think it helped insure a lot of folks, and as some of that has been unwound, there are many people now back again not having insurance. I think the markets that the state set up, New York in particular, have afforded people health insurance that they would not have had otherwise. So I think the government is here now and will wind up staying there for a long time to come.
Okay, thank you. Chris, I'll direct this to you. I was talking to someone earlier, and it's my firm belief that as a business owner, you cannot remain stagnant. You need to continually change. You need to continually innovate and move forward. So for someone, a company that certainly has been very successful, how have you managed to operate your business, and what's changed in your business over the last 5 years to stay ahead of the curve? I know you've gone to, you talked a little bit about social media, digital marketing. What else has changed, and how have you stayed ahead of the curve?
I think we've stayed ahead of the curve by focusing on what we look at as our two main threats. One is talent acquisition, retention, and training. We've talked about this, I think, in detail. Finding qualified labor and people is extremely hard. But it's not only hard once you find them, now you need to train them. And after you train them, you need to retain them. Because unlike years ago, there's hardly ever a time that a resume comes across my desk that I see, oh wow, he's been with that company 10 years. I used to remember getting a stack of 20, 30 resumes, going through them quickly, pointing out jumpers, anybody that's been there a year and a half, and eliminating them. And I had maybe 18, 20 resumes left. Now it's the opposite. If I do that, I only have 2 resumes left. So one of the things to do is you have, above and beyond pay, because that's important, you have to make people want to stay. And that's based on your culture, that's based on your the company's corporate social responsibilities and initiatives that they do. People want to be challenged, they want to develop. So that's one of the threats that we see, because I wish I had a magic calculator that I could punch in the number, what it costs me every time I lose somebody that's been with us 3, 4 years, the time and the money spent on training, and then you have to do it all over again. And the second part, the threat, is innovation and transparency. Competition is as fierce as ever, especially when you're from a manufacturing perspective. If you look at the rise in minimum wage, and it's not only a one-time rise, it's over a 5-year period, up to $15. Which is great, and if you forecast and you plan, it's fine, but when your neighboring states have $8.25, $9, $8, it does become more difficult. So you have to innovate, you have to constantly stay ahead of the competition. Customers and consumers are more educated than ever. They demand transparency. From a food perspective, clean label, natural ingredients, and they have a lot of choices today. So consumers want things, whether it's food or anything or others. They want choices. They want different products. They want innovative products.
Understood. Rich, in the same vein, what changes do you anticipate in your industry over the next 5, 10 years?
I think a lot of the same challenges that Chris brought up. Not only is it the continuing challenges of talent and recruiting and retaining, because it really does drive our business. Anybody who's in a service business, knows that it's about the people you have. So we kind of have. I think there's short-term challenges and long-term challenges. To me, the short-term challenges are creating as engaged of a workforce as we possibly can, and understanding where the motivations are for people that work for you and people that might one day work for you. When you take a look at just the demographics of workforce and how things are changing and how the generations are moving, it was interesting to see something not too long ago where, as a Gen Xer, I'm a kind of small piece of the overall workforce, and baby boomers are a big piece, millennials are an even bigger piece, and over the next 5 years, probably 60% of our workforce is going to be millennial generation. Right now at our company, over 50% of our employees are millennials. So what motivates them? How do you engage them? Do they understand their career path? Do they understand their opportunities? Are we a company that's providing them the right kind of opportunities to grow and be successful? That's an obligation of every business owner, everybody running a business, that you recognize what is going to keep your employees with you, and especially at a time where there is so much opportunity for employees to go other places. If you're not completely recognizing the fact that you've got to roll the red carpet out, and never say to anybody, be happy to have a job, because that just means that they're going to go someplace else, because it's that easy to do it. And then I think from a long-term perspective, talking about my industry, the United States is it's very diverse in its industry and its ability for people to go ahead and find careers. And I think less than 10% of the 40 degrees that people obtain in the U.S. Is in engineering. And if you take a look at the future with AI and high tech and manufacturing, we need more people to develop skills and experience from a STEM perspective. And I have a little bit of a fear that moving forward, we're actually going to kind of widen at least the talent gap that I see in the engineering industry. And even though I know there's so much commitment, where we recognize the fact that without the engineers, we're going to struggle. We're not going to be as competitive on the world stage. China graduates, 30% of their students get engineering degrees, and I think India's 25% of their students get engineering degrees. Other countries send their people here to get world-class educations, and then they leave, go back to their countries. So that's, from a long-term perspective, I think one of the biggest challenges for us is to really stay committed and to provide an environment where we can grow our technical expertise as a country, and really stay on the cutting edge on the world stage.
Thank you. Kevin, along the same vein, how do you see banking evolving over the next 5-10 years?
So I think it'll continue to evolve. There'll be much more technology. I think we need to bring the bank to the customer as opposed to the customer come to us. But at the end, still, this is a personal decision about your money. And so just like your business, I think that it's still going to be about the people and the conversation. We kind of think about, you want to reach them digitally, and I'd love to hear how you actually made the change to digital marketing, because that's the big bugaboo. How do you go from what you're doing traditionally to digitally? But it will be, again, more technology, but it's being able to reach the customers when they need you, identify what they need right away. It's probably becoming more specific in your product knowledge and your knowledge of people's industries. I think that, and I've had enough conversation, again, to go back to accountants, you guys are specializing along industry lines, and eventually bankers will have some level of specialty. But I don't think you can still take away from the personal touch that comes from dealing with people's most important decisions about their money and their finance. This room is full of very intelligent entrepreneurs and things like that, and you're very good at what you manufacture, sell, distribute, design. But a lot of times the way you deal with things financially is where we can come and become of an assistance. I'd like to think, our success is being partners with you and your businesses, and that comes on a personal level. So, we'll continue to invest in technology. We'll worry about cybersecurity, although the way things you have described some of this technology, I'll never be able to protect from everything. But it is, I know that it'll be different in 10 years, how it'll be different, but I still think the human touch will be involved.
Thank you very much. I said when everybody entered, if they would give us their confidence rating. Well, the results came out, and we saw 7.2 local, 7.5 national. In this room today, 7.0. So still fairly optimistic. I appreciate that from everyone. At this time, I've asked all the questions that I wanted to. Do we have any questions from the audience at this time?
I'm Joel Lipsky, Lipsky Construction. This is for Rich. You said that some of your employees have to roll out the red carpet, and for millennials especially, you can't just tell them that you're lucky to have a job. I was kind of wondering if you can maybe elaborate on that. Are you seeing more employees looking for perks more so than previous employees?
Yeah, I think that we're pretty constantly reevaluating our benefits programs and the things that we're offering to employees. We just rolled out a program where we teamed with Gratify. If people are familiar with Gratify, it's a company that helps people with student loan debt be able to better manage and provide some guidance with that. And moving forward, we're going to be looking to roll out a program where we actually help our employees that have student loan debt pay their student loan debt back. We've looked for opportunities where, if we have a new employee coming in that has student loan debt and we want to encourage them to contribute money into our retirement program, and they say, there's no way I can do that. I've got to live, and I've got, all this debt I've got to pay back. How can I even think about retirement? Well, we're looking for ways as a company to at least be able to maybe contribute from the employee's perspective into their retirement to match what they're paying in student loan debt. So we're trying to do the best we can to be really creative and to provide the types of benefits that are going to be as helpful as possible to our employees. And we recognize that, the way I see it, you could talk about a housing bubble from a dozen years ago. To me, the burden of student loan debt, as a country and for employees is, to me, that's going to be our most significant challenge moving forward. Is how in the world do to kids that have to graduate with student loan debt, tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. They almost can't even see their future. All they see is kind of this darkness of how in the world am I going to get past this thing? So we try to do a lot of things internally to create benefits, but whenever we have a chance to go ahead and kind of relook at what we do, we take the opportunity to do it.
Good morning, I'm Scott Maskin. I'm a proud board member also with the HIA. The one thing that I did want to say, Chris, great job with how you built your company. The culture is what it's about. And one word that you forgot was safety, that our employees and your employees, they want a safe place to work. And that's really retention. But what I wanted to say is that the construction industry, the electricians, the plumbers, we are not a dying breed. We are a vibrant source on Long Island. We are the blue-collar guys that buy the homes. I would challenge that the STEM programs, it's great, I get it, but I have a 24-year-old daughter. She lives at home. And all her friends have moved to Pennsylvania because that's where they could buy a house, or upstate New York or something. Those aren't the kids that are really buying the houses. My employees, my construction employees, they're starting families. They're making $60,000 to $100,000, $120,000 in the construction industry. They're buying houses. They're the ones buying boats and putting their kids and staying on Long Island. So it's important that we go to those high schools and we get those kids, because there's way too many kids that are now deciding student debt or go to work. And those are the kids that are going to really help Long Island survive.
certainly a
Scott,
place for
those
them.
are the kids who need to be the poster children for that campaign that we need to start to tell them that they don't have to have a college degree to have a great job.
Very true.
We probably
Very
also
true.
need to rethink about, even at the high school level, the view of BOCES. BOCES provides for those students that at that point in time have made that decision, a leg up to provide that sort of backdrop for what you need. So I think that there has to be a rethinking of that all along.
Hi, Ron Loveland, President of Summit Safety and Efficiency Solutions, also the HIA Manufacturing Committee co-chair. You had mentioned the Amazon headquarters 2 coming into Long Island City. How do the board members see that impacting their business?
I have trouble seeing that could be anything but positive. I mean, you're going to add that many jobs. Again, the revenue number, whatever the tax revenue, $27 million of tax revenue off to that the tax incentives. But we have seen, as businesses have been transplanted out of Long Island City or in Brooklyn, many of them chosen to come out here. And so we are seeing repurposing of industrial space that may need to be redone, but I don't see how you can take that level of economic growth and not think it's going to permeate the rest of our economy. So I think, obviously, there's some, I'll call it short-sightedness, opinion-wise, about this, but how do you turn down something that people everywhere else around the country wanted? So I'm a simple guy. That seems to be the way I look at it.
And you know my feeling, I agree wholeheartedly. Will a lot of it filter out, say, to Suffolk County? Some of it will. Nassau probably more benefit, obviously, Long Island City and that surrounding region there. But it's got to be a benefit to this region, to the state. I mean, again, I think it's a no-brainer.
And I'll just say this. I think some of the concerns about transit, subways, and things like that, they will get themselves worked out. You know, you can always throw up obstacles to progress, and many of the conversations here about that. But eventually, the technology that we talk about, all the investments and the smart young people here, they will figure out ways, in my mind, to make the subways run quicker, to do the things that are right now identified as the impediments to some of this.
I, for one, thought it was an amazing insight into Long Island, and I wanted to thank Bob Corte and the panel. So big round of applause.